Hello, listeners, and welcome to this very special episode of the Chasm Converses podcast. This week, I have the Chasm Review, full audio version with my guest, Falter, and we talk about his new EP, Invisible Monsters. So join us for this conversation, listen to the EP, and I hope that you enjoy it. Welcome to the Chasm Review. Today, I am joined by a very special guest. I am reviewing the EP Invisible Monsters by the Adelaide-based artist Falter. And joining me right now is Falter himself.
Hey everyone, how are you?
It's so cool to have you here, my friend. I'm so keen to delve into this EP with you, to not only review it, but just get some insights behind the EP, behind the songs. This currently is probably my favorite EP release of the year so far. So I am rearing to go. I've got the hat, I've got the shirt. So let's dig straight into it, man.
Awesome. Thanks, bro.
No worries. So I love to just start off by saying, like, it's all round. It's such a fucking good, like, it's so well produced. It's so well written. There's so much like emotion and just like fortitude around the EP. Is there like any sort of like certain storyline or theme throughout the EP that you sort of have in mind, or is it just sort of like, you know, a few songs, like as in like different songs and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I guess I mean it's a little bit of an adventure, and I think you can sort of get a sense of that with the songs. They're sort of very different to one another, which is nice. But I guess the main reason for that is because like the first track, Break Me Down, was probably, it was the first track I sort of wrote in terms of thinking about Falter and with my producer, Rowan, which was great. So obviously Dark Side was the first single, but Break Me Down was done at that sort of same time.
Oh,
so
wow.
That was probably, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So, and then you take that to the next track, which is Suffocating, which was written within the last year. So, and then, so all of them are written at different times. But I guess because you know what it's like as well, you sort of, as a band and as a musician, you tend to release singles and, you know, that sort of thing. And so I've done a lot of singles in between, but, you know, I sort of wanted to release a collective of songs. And it was quite fun to sort of merge them all together because, so Break Me Down and I Don't Care were done very early on.
And right, so, that was on too, okay.
Yeah. And then, so I Don't Care, I actually wrote that maybe 10 years ago. So,
oh, wow.
So that was actually sort of when I was in my old band and I was kind of starting to write whole songs myself. Because I was sort of, you know, wasn't confident as that I'm mainly obviously a vocalist. And so, so then Suffocating and Hear Me. Then I swear that I think there's another track that I'm forgetting.
Only to Blame.
Only to Blame, of course.
Yeah. The middle.
Yeah, so those 3 songs were written later on, which is cool. So it sort of went, Break Me Down, I Don't Care. And then it was Only to Blame, which was probably around the same time as Had Enough when that single came out.
Yeah, of course, right.
Yeah. And then Suffocating and Hear Me were the 2 latest tracks that we worked on.
It's so fascinating, just like the facts, because I mean, we've obviously both been through this. Obviously, you've just been through this with your EP, but it's so fascinating when you can really just grab songs from whenever, from any timeline, and just like kind of stick them together with other songs. I mean, I wouldn't have suspected for a second that, you know, Break Me Down and I Don't Care were from like 10 years ago. I would have been like, oh man, these are just brand new songs that he's just whipped up. But when you put them all together with all the other songs, it's like they all sound so cohesive all together that it's just like, wow, like it just seems like they're all done at the same time. And a lot of people kind of think that, especially I think when you do listen to albums and releases and stuff, is like, oh, you know, this new band's released 12 different songs. They just seem like it's a massive collective of, you know, most recent songs, but they're not. Like they're from like the present day. They're from like maybe like a couple of years ago. Some can be from way back in the archives, man, like way back that they've just dug 100%. Up. And like, I
Yeah.
love that. I love that your EP does that. It's a very like, I mean, I know like heaps of new metal bands and like, you know, classic like bands that we listen to that have done that with previous
Yeah.
tracks. And so I love that your EP also has that, that
Yeah.
flair to it too.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And so I guess like that's kind of why I called it Invisible Monsters as well, because I sort of thought about like conceptually what all the songs were kind of about. And they're all, as you know, very different songs, but
Mhm.
each of them kind of deal with, I guess, mental health in a general sense or in different
Mm,
ways. And
okay.
so, you know, invisible monsters for me means, you know, those demons and those things that you can't see, but they're scarier than real literal monsters that you can see.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So,
exactly right.
yeah, and that's kind of why I like when I designed the cover. I just had, you know, that old school kind of bed sheet ghost looking thing,
Yeah.
but there's nothing underneath, so you can't see feet coming out. So
Mm,
it's kind of creepy, but it's like plays on that, you know, innocent kind of funny thing that you do as
mm.
kids, where you throw a sheet over and cut some holes in it, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so
I
it's
do
kind
love
of
that. I love that you did that for your first EP because we did that for ours as well. We had like the red
oh,
ghost. We're like the red ghost monster as well, and then you had like the
oh my
white
god,
sheet
really?
ghost monster. We should have a. We
Oh,
should do a thing where they coincide.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I haven't even seen that. Oh my god, how good's that?
Yeah, no, I loved when I first saw the thing. I'm like, oh hell yeah, he's going for the white sheet monster. That's so because ours originally was white. And then
Yeah,
and then I was like, nah, I want it to be a different color. So I was like, nah, I'll throw some red, we'll make it red. So I love that there's
yeah,
like that
sick.
contrastingness between the two. But
Yeah,
even so, I love to jump in to the track by track. So like, let's go into
yeah,
Break Me Down because like as you said, that's one that you
yep.
wrote quite a while ago. I do love it as
Mhm.
the first track, especially with like that CD tape recorder, like that tape effect. How it
Yeah,
starts off like real, just oh man, it's awesome. But yeah, take me through
yeah,
that track, bro.
cheers. Yeah, sure. So I guess obviously to start off with, all the tracks were recorded and produced by my producer Rowan Jakowski at Header Studios. So huge props to him for working on the tracks with me. I guess Break Me Down was super funny because obviously the songs were written at different times. I
Mm,
think one of the hardest things, you know, especially for Rowan and myself, was to sit down and have like Suffocating already released,
mm,
and nothing else was released. And so we kind of had one bass track and we were like, well, we have to make all the other ones work with this track. And so
mm.
we revisited those project files, like Break Me Down, and we had to really kind of go, is this going to work with this track or whatever? And so Break Me Down originally had maybe like a minute 15 or something of guitar intro, which I ended up cutting, and just changing for the record player,
Oh,
um,
nice.
because it was sort of, yeah, funny conversation because that, I guess when I wrote that, I was playing, and writing most of that sort of guitar. And so there was a lot of basic guitar, just chuggy kind of Static
Mm,
X kind of vibe stuff at the start.
nice.
And obviously when, you know, I started having Rowan write more of the guitars, he's a natural, he is a guitar player and that's what he
Mm,
does, and he's an incredible musician at what he does. And so you know, letting his guitar styles come into the songs more is better for everybody because, you know, and so when we were looking back at those older songs, I was like, oh, you know, this isn't holding up as well, the stuff that I, you know, wrote at the start of this song. And so we got
mm.
that sort of stuff. But then you can sort of still hear the bits that I write. Basically anything that's more simple, you're like, oh yeah, there it is.
Yeah, yeah, nice. It comes
um,
out.
but yeah, so I guess Break Me Down was kind of, I literally just wrote it as a high energy track. And that was really all I wanted in mind. And so lyrically, I was just thinking about, you know, that kind of essence of, you know, just having those kind of fights with yourself and, you know, others and kind of people bringing you down and that sort of thing. But then also sort of how you fight that back and how
Mm,
you sort of come back from that. And so um, that's why it's kind of positive in that sense. It's kind of, you know, like it's not a depressing song at all. It's
mm.
really sort of uplifting. But
Yeah.
yeah, I guess I literally was just like, I need to write something that's, you know, a bit of high energy, a bit more, you know, like I hate to use it, but like happy metal sound. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of
Opens up the whole release like really, really well. I did also want to
yeah,
ask, like the near the back end of the track, there's like a riff that comes in. Are they bagpipes, or is that just like a really like different guitar riff, like that just sort of plays at the end, like at like the outro of that track?
Uh, Definitely not bagpipes, but yeah, I wish they were. That'd be cool.
It sounds when I first heard it, I was like, wait, what the? That sounds like bagpipes. For a second, I thought you were doing like a corn tribute or something. I was like, what? No way. And then like as it got
Yeah,
toward the end, I'm like, no, it has to be guitar. I don't know what he's done, but it sounds
yes,
sick.
yeah,
It sounds awesome.
yeah. That's like the guitar solo, and it probably sounds weird because we ended up bringing it into the like chorus, the last chorus,
Oh yeah,
and
yep.
so it's like super different to other choruses. Yeah, so it's like a guitar solo that Rowan wrote, and yeah, and that was probably that was 4 years ago. And
Wow.
so, Rowan's doing this happy, guitar solo. And I think we were both like laughing because, I was like, all of the songs, like I'm really good at writing depressing stuff. So I was like, we got to bring something in that's going to,
Yeah.
lift up the audience before, we hit them with the heavy stuff later.
Oh man, you did very well with that. Well, let's move on to the
Yeah.
next one, man.
Yeah.
Let's move on to Suffocating,
Yeah.
because that's a like you said, first single released. Fucking, you put out a video, 10,000 views of the video. Just if you were ever going to build hype and build like a really great foundation to start with this release, this was the perfect song to do it on, in my opinion.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, man. No, I appreciate it. Suffocating is a super personal song to me and definitely one of my favorite tracks for sure. I guess I sort of wrote that around the last referendum that happened and like, those people, audience that don't know, like I'm an Orangery man, proud Aboriginal man. And so I guess that referendum time was super hard mentally because it's like 2024 now, and we're still kind of fighting these notions of being accepted and that sort of thing. And so, I guess, and going back to the whole theme of the EP, when I write my lyrics, I obviously have my own connection, my own story to what I'm writing, but I like to write them generally enough that people can bring their own experiences and thoughts about it, because if it's general enough, most people can connect in some sort of way. And so I guess I've sort of written the song in terms of, from that perspective of feeling like an outsider and kind of, what is that? That's why the lyrics are like, what could it be surrounding me? Kind of
Yeah.
thinking about this darkness, and then, actually it's coming from inside of me, but why is it there? So, it is a really sort of intense song for me. And, like that whole sort of period of time, that few months, I was kind of questioning, like what is going on with this country and why, like why is everybody kind of having a say on, just our thing, and
Yeah.
so it was mentally like a really hard time. And so, that song is kind of, I guess, the product of that. Originally, musically, it was something that Rowan was working on, like the actual riff side of things. And basically, sort of after that Linkin Park song "Lost" came out.
Yeah, right. That's
And I
right.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that was kind of a day that all of us rejoiced. It was like,
Yeah, yeah.
wow, we got more Linkin Park, and that's great. And so
Yeah.
Rowan was super inspired by that musically. And yeah, and so when I sort of heard that sort of main riff and the do 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 do, those keys, Rowan showed me that when I walked in, and I was like, this is sick. Let's build a song from this.
Sick.
And yeah, I sort of wanted those dropouts where it sort of went to piano, so I could do some more feelsy stuff and sort of talk about that. But
Yeah.
yeah, and I definitely urge people to read the lyrics because it's probably my favorite song lyrically.
It is. There were some really good lyrics in there, man. I also, when I first heard it, like I just knew straight away. I was like, man, this is something else. Like this is just like the next level of your stuff.
Oh,
Because
cheers.
yeah, like from the lyrical perspective for sure, but even from like the singing perspective, like there's so many more cleans in this song as well. That really took me by
Yep.
surprise. But the fact that you do them so well, and even the screams on top of them are just so much. They're just again just next level. And so like literally when it
Thanks.
came out, I was like, oh man, if there's like a bunch of songs to come or like an EP to come from this, it's gonna be like this next level kind of stuff, which was very very exciting. We'll move on to
Awesome.
Only to Blame, which is the middle track, and
Yeah.
that's another really cool song, man. It's like it seems really down to earth, and again quite emotive as well. I love the breakdown
Yeah.
in it. It's probably one of my favorite breakdowns. With
Yeah.
your
Cool.
screams again, just coming in real full, real impactful, man. Like, take me through that one.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah. So Only to Blame is super different song because I think I was sort of thinking about um in terms of just vocal delivery. I was kind of inspired by a lot of different bands at that time, and you'll definitely riff off of this. It was when sort of like Lowest in Me by Stain came out,
Oh
and
yeah,
that
yeah,
that single, I was like, shit, like I had
yeah,
that on repeat for like a month, and
yeah.
you
True.
know,
Yeah.
it's like those. So if you go back and listen to the verses, you can kind of really hear that I'm sort of thinking about just Stained, kind of in their in their sort of prime, and even now, just the kind of slower vocals and that build up, and
Mm.
that the emotive nature of kind of how Aaron Lewis kind of delivers those vocals, and so I was super inspired at that time. But I guess in terms of the song, it was a funny one because I was sort of going through a bit of I guess like a health transition in terms
Mm.
of just how I look after myself and that sort of thing. And so it
Yeah.
was not too long after I played with Powerman 5000. It was just after that I sort of
That's right. Yeah.
sat back. Yeah, and like so basically like I'm like a year and a half sober now. So it's sort
Oh.
of like from that I was sort of like having a few drinks every now and then, and like and I was like, this isn't actually doing me good. So
Mm.
and that's why it's like Only to Blame. If you think about the things that we're kind of doing to ourselves, but then there's always this kind of romanticized side of life where you're kind of like, woe is me, and then you have to look in the mirror and kind of go, actually, like I can change this shit around.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and so that was kind of, I guess, the general crux of the song. I sort of wanted to just think about looking in the mirror and thinking about bad habits and kind of breaking them down, and getting rid of them. And so
Mm.
yeah, that song sort of helped me through that sort of period. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I know all about the bad habits. I'll go back on the start. I don't want to do too many tangents in this, but like
Yeah, sure.
when Cycle of Hurting came out, that was fucking. I was yeah, that was the song that I just had on repeat in London. Whenever I'd
Yep.
walk to work across the Thames, I'd be like, I'd listen to that real deep that scream that he does in that like bridge part, heading into the final
Yeah.
chorus. Like, oh, sick. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I completely agree with like the whole bad habits thing and being only to blame. That was a big thing for me, especially when I went over to London, because like, it was almost like a bit of a fresh start. But then it's kind of like,
Yep.
it's that that saying of like, you can sort of go wherever you want to, but like your bad habits are with you, so they follow you wherever you go. And that's exactly what
Yep.
happened. Like I was like, yeah, fresh start, awesome. But then it's like, oh my
Yep.
God, I'm drinking all the time because now there's bars everywhere around me. So this is
Yeah.
actually getting worse. And
Yep.
you're just like,
Yep.
oh shit, why am I feeling so down? I'm in a new country. It's like because you haven't resolved your issues.
Yeah, 100%. But it's like it's hard, hey. Like you've got to
Yeah,
you've got to actually sit back and almost have a conversation with yourself about what's going on.
100%.
But when you actually do that, I think that's when things happen, things change, and you
They
know,
do.
things are way better. Yeah.
They really do, man. I could not agree more. Let's move on to IDC, which I see is I don't
Yeah.
care.
Yep.
If there's a song if there's a song in this like EP where like the shift happens, it's this song in my opinion. Like that as soon as
Yep.
it comes in, I'm just like, oh man, this is different. This is I mean, all the other songs are like there's a bit of cohesiveness between them. And then when this one comes
Mhm.
in, you can tell like, oh, there's a turn coming. And I love that it's a
Yep.
song that you wrote like a while ago because like
Yeah.
obviously shift like putting it into all these songs, it definitely shifts the EP, but it does fit really well into what comes after it. But yeah,
Yeah.
take me through that one.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. Awesome observation because yeah, I literally wrote this song, yeah, about 10 years ago, when I was using, I think, Cubase back then or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
And and so obviously it's not the same files, but
Yeah.
so yeah, basically that song when I wrote, I guess, like I had the whole track when I went to Rowan, same with Dark Side. So that were the two songs that I had in my back pocket when I first started with Rowan. And so I don't care. I really wanted to make it work because it was so original to just what I was doing before, and kind of I thought about the two songs as kind of my transition out of the band that I was doing before into a
Mm,
solo thing.
mm,
And yeah, so I guess one of the reasons why it is so different is probably because 90% of the music is written by me,
mm.
including all the guitars. And so that's why it's kind of super simple, moody. And I guess I was super into, Cradle of Filth and Marilyn Manson, all those kind of things where,
Yeah.
they're sort of dark and creepy and slow.
Mm,
And I was really interested in kind of mixing that with the high energy stuff and the emotional stuff.
mm,
And I guess, yeah, it's a super funny song because I had everything kind of there.
mm.
And then when I came to revisiting it, I only had vocally and lyrically the chorus done.
Right. Okay.
And I wrote that chorus a long time ago. And I guess people, what people like. We grow, and
Mm.
and I'm not as angry as I used to be, and
Yeah. Of
so
course. Yeah.
looking back at that track, I was like, really had those angry lyrics, and that sort of yeah. I guess when I listen to the original tracks of my vocals
Mm,
from back then, it's almost confronting because they're super intense and super raw.
mm.
And funny enough, they weren't obviously they weren't good enough to match the production quality of everything else
Yeah.
because I'm using SM7B now and things like that. And so
Mm.
I had to try and recreate those vocals,
Yeah.
with the new gear. And so that was challenging because I really love the old takes because
Mm.
you could almost like hear that the pain in the chorus,
Yeah.
like there was kind of, yeah. And that was kind of, I guess, essence of what I was going through at that time, which
That's
again,
awesome.
10 years ago, 21, like a long time ago. So,
Yeah.
a lot different then,
Yeah.
and so I was sort of sitting in this very office and I was like, what can I kind of do lyrically for the rest of this song? And I wanted to do something very different to the rest of the EP. And
Mm,
obviously the rest of the EP, I was kind of just thinking about myself and my experiences and how I can relate to other people. And
mhm.
this one, I was like, maybe I'll take a conceptual approach and do something different. And so I sort of started thinking about like my favorite horror movies and that sort of thing. And,
Yeah.
trying to see how I could relate the lyrics I had to a specific character. And then I built the rest of the song from that. And so
Oh, sick.
conceptually, the song is kind of about Jason Voorhees' story. So,
Awesome,
um,
man.
so yeah, once you kind of know that and you go back and read the lyrics, there are little hints that
I
I've dropped
will
in there.
now do
So
that.
yeah, yeah, it's kind of about how he was obviously bullied and then isolated and left alone.
Mm.
And that's like obviously why he comes back and kills everyone. So
Yeah,
there's a lot
yeah.
of kind of anger in that sort of story, but there is a lot of emotion in that
Mm.
sense because so yeah, it was a weird thing, but I was just like, man, like I'm a metal musician. Fuck it, let's write write the
I
rest of the
love
song
that.
about this.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think probably my most, I mean, obviously, I love the thing of the fact that like it's based off Jason and that sort of thing. One thing that I really do love from that is the fact that despite the fact that you've obviously grown so much since you've written that song, you still kept the same chorus as it was because there's a lot of
Yeah,
people that as they grow with their music changes and they're like, oh, well, wasn't what I was now, so I'll change this to this, whatever. So I
yeah,
really love the fact that you kept the same chorus and that you made it your mission to try and recreate it the best way you could based off the
yeah,
way that you did it back in the day.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, and I think
yeah, yeah.
I think it does it real good justice because like I don't know if I could ever hear you sound much more angrier than that, but like you did a very good job.
Thanks, man.
Oh man. But no, that's it's awesome that you've continued to do that. And it served the song really well as
Yeah,
well.
cheers. No,
And that
thanks,
leads
man.
on so well to like the next song, which is Hear Me. And that's where like this I heard this song for the first time when you opened for Wednesday 13. And I was just like, oh, what is this? Like this is next level. Like when you come in with that verse, I was like, oh, this is I can't wait for this song to come out. Um
Yeah,
and
cool.
and like again, it's that real like it's that real heavy, real fast. Like it's almost like a stepbrother of like I don't care, like with its real like
Yeah,
heaviness in your face kind of attitude, but just sort of like sped up into more of an energetic kind of feel. And it sounds like a
Yeah.
more aggressive version of the first song, which is so cool because that started the EP, now this song
Yeah.
ends it. Like, it's
Yeah.
brilliant. Take me through it.
Yeah, for sure. Nah, thanks, man. Yeah, Hear Me was actually like just such a super fun song to write. Um, I guess it was sort of after Suffocating, and obviously Suffocating was like, um, really, yeah, we were really happy with that. And so it was kind of hard to kind of write after that and kind of go, all right, we still have to do something that's going to complement this track. And also, um, when we wrote it, I wasn't thinking about it being the last track either. It was kind of just a funny thing. You know what it's like once you've got the collective of songs together and you sort of hear them as a collection, you
Mm,
actually start going, okay, these ones would make sense in this sort of, like,
yep.
what do you call it, timeline or whatever. Um, but yeah, I guess Hear Me was, yeah, it was so much fun. Just thinking about, like, I was listening to a lot of hip hop, a lot of Twisted, and
Mm,
bands like that. And I love bringing kind of the rappy kind of elements into the metal as well.
mm.
Obviously, new metal does that so well. And so I was sort of thinking about that and the screams. And so yeah, I mean, when we sort of sat down, I just said to Rowan, I was like, he's like, how do you want to start this next song? I was like, just give me a riff that's like, da, 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 da,
Nice.
da, and then so he just
Sick.
takes like all of my voice notes like that and turns them into the riffs,
Brilliant.
which was super cool. Because once we had that, it was so funny. We wrote the rest of the song. And then we were like, hang on, we didn't use that riff again. It was just the main riff. And I was
Oh
like, all right, put
yeah.
it. So I was like, okay, put it at the end. So it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's like the bread of the whole sandwich, and the rest of the song's just like all different.
I love
So
that I didn't notice that until you just told me.
yeah, yeah. Now you'll go back and you won't hear it until the end. It's like
Mm,
super funny, but
yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, I guess again, like I was sort of thinking generally in terms of my lyrics and things that I've been through, and just kind of wanting to keep that one super general and heavy and not take it overly serious. Because yeah, I just wanted something that an audience can relate to. Um, and it's just about being heard, I guess, and that's why it's called Hear Me. So,
Mm.
yeah, it's just basically trying to get a message across and that sort of thing, and being able to accept someone for their voice and wanting to be heard. So, yeah, but lots of different lyrics and funny little things in that song for sure. But
Mm.
yeah, and the film clip was such a great adventure as well. So
Yeah.
that was supported by the Port Adelaide Council, which was great. And we filmed it in Confessions, which is like a sort of underground cabaret sort of club, which
Oh
was
wow, okay.
super, yeah, super different for a metal scene. And so we set it up as obviously that kind of mobster looking vibe. And
Sick.
then yeah, did a lot of drone footage out in the port. Yeah, it was such a fun 2 day shoot. So yeah.
Yeah, man, that's fantastic. No, I really enjoyed that video, and like it's so good that you're able to do so much with both, like obviously with the suffocating video, but also with the Hear Me video as well. Like just
Yep.
being able to really let your creativeness, like sort of come through and make a story out of it to suit the song, and you're very good at doing that. So like, I mean, you've obviously got previous videos as well, but yeah, those ones for
Yep.
me. Yeah, I think everyone as well sort of just realized that yeah, these are just like next level like videos for you guys, and it
Yeah, it is.
added so much to the tracks too.
Yeah, for sure. No, thanks so much, man. Like as a visual artist, I think so much about the visuals, and
Hmm.
yeah, it was such a fun adventure. Those film clips for sure.
100%,
Yeah.
man. Well, as I said, man, you've got such an amazing EP here, and it's just as I said, it complements the songs complement each other really well, and even the lyricism and the meanings behind the songs, I think they really do relate to a lot of people and a lot of different sort of walks of life, I suppose. But like it's heartfelt, it's emotional, it's impactful. It's like there's so much around it. It's well, as I said, it's my favorite EP of the year so far. That I go to, that I listen to. I think it's absolutely brilliant. So I really do commend you on just being able to fucking write these songs and like bring out, as you said, bring the new in with the old and just sort of bring it out together. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing like, you know, what you guys do next, because like, you know, as I said, when that first song came out, I was like, oh man, this is like next level. So like, who knows what's going to be when you guys put out your next song. But yeah, you've got an amazing EP here, man. So I can tell you that right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate your kind words. Like, yeah, means a lot. It really does. First EP, so super stoked. And yeah, I've definitely got some songs coming for sure. The next one's going to be a super heavy, fun song.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, to all my listeners, please do follow Falter and his music journey. Listen to Invisible Monsters, obviously available on all the streaming platforms, that sort of thing. And watch, go to YouTube, watch the videos. They are just absolute masterpieces. You'll absolutely love them. And obviously, with this, there'll be also the recorded version for audio as well on the podcast through Chasm Converser, so you can listen to that as well. Or you can watch this one that we're doing right now. So either one is perfect. But either way, thank you so much for joining me, Falter. And I really hope that you see how much your EP has really, like, you know, I think helped a lot of people and also like inspired them to, like, you know, go and do their own music and really, like, you know, make themselves the best people that they can be.
Awesome. No, thanks heaps, man. I really appreciate it. And thanks so much for having me on today.
Thank you so much for joining us for the episode, the Chasm review of Falter's debut EP, Invisible Monsters. You can go and listen to this right now, wherever you stream your music. And if you want to watch the video version of this review, that is available on my YouTube channel at This Is Chasm. Thank you again for joining us. Stay tuned to the socials and to the podcast for new guests and new content dropping every single week.